Broadcasting live and worldwide. Here's Brody Brazil.
So if you're watching this video, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, if you're listening via podcast, or you check out my Instagram or Twitter on any regular basis, I mean, chances are you're a fan of sports. That's the content I put out there. That's my job. It's been a big part of my life. And obviously for you, it's the exact same thing. But it got me to thinking the other day, why do most people even watch sports? There's not one right answer, and that's a beautiful thing. In fact, there's so many different answers, it's hard to really encompass all the different reasons and everybody's different perspectives. But I wanted to try and get closer to some of the main answers, at least. That was my intention behind it. So I put a poll out on Twitter, and it ended up getting almost 1,700 votes, which, you know, it's enough to give you a pretty clear idea of how people are feeling. I didn't mean to put the responses in the order that they fell into, but it turns out the first one was first place, second, third, and fourth, respectively, in that order. Again, unintentional, and I truly feel like people vote honestly on Twitter, so I appreciate everybody who did participate. But it went like this. The main reason you watch sports, 33% said because they play. All right, makes sense. They watch because they love participating and they love watching, whether it's to admire somebody else do it or to learn how to get better, or there's that connection. That edged out by 1 percentage point. So I find that this next one could be equally a winner. 32% said they enjoy the storylines. All right, that's a huge part for me too. I mean, obviously I grew up watching and playing sports, but now as I get older, I'm a little bit, how do I say this, less athletic. So I enjoy the storylines. I enjoy it like a soap opera, maybe, the start and finish to a season. I'm not saying I enjoy all the drama. I want to make that clear. There are some dramatic points I could do without. But yes, there are fun storylines, inspirational stuff, heartwarming stuff, cool stuff that I find throughout the course of any sports season. Not far behind that, again, 1, 2, and 3 were all so very close to each other. At 30%, the answer was tradition related. So maybe it's something your father or mother or grandparents passed down to you, or it's part of a sibling thing, or maybe you're the father or son, or excuse me, father or mother, and you're passing this along to one of your children. Tradition is a huge part of sports, maybe team related, maybe sport related, maybe positionally related, you know, like everybody in the family is a point guard or a center fielder. So again, those three main answers, because you play, you enjoy the storylines, or it's tradition related, those were very close altogether at 1, 2, and 3 respectively. I put in betting as just an option because, quite honestly, at least in my observation of social media, there's a ton of people who seem to be eager about wagering on sports. They get a kick out of, putting money down and potentially winning or maybe even losing. Like, that's the adrenaline rush they get off sports, and that's why they like it. Only 5% said betting was the main reason they watch sports. I would have guessed it would have been bigger. And to me, I'll dive into the betting part later and kind of a quick breakdown of all of them, but I was a little bit surprised, and maybe it's even refreshing to know that people have more genuine connections to sport rather than just the need to gamble on it. All right, so some other suggestions I got in the Twitter poll. I love the comments, by the way, equally as the voting response. A lot of comments suggested that I should have included an option for just simply love of the game. Okay, I felt like I was trying to get more specific than that, like because you play or the storylines or, tradition. Love of the game seems like a bigger picture one that I could have included, but I appreciate that. Others suggested the competition aspect. Hey, I love that one as well too, right? Whether it's person on person, team on team, competition is huge, right? It's exciting. You build up for something and then you finally get a result in a game situation. Then there were some individual responses here that I'll point out via Twitter. Aaron saying, it's entertainment and I'm entertained. Natural drama, not contrived by producers. And that actually leads right into another comment that I also liked here, a similar one from Johnny. It's the ultimate reality TV before the phrase was coined, right? Reality television. Sports has always provided that. And Aaron's right, too, on the first tweet, because producers don't get to decide who wins, who loses, who has a good game or a bad game. Referees and officials might have a hand in that, and umpires as well, too, in baseball. Ooh, when you think about that. And maybe even in the course of history, NBA officials have had some issues with being too involved in dictating the results of certain games. But I digress. I totally get that part. It's reality television before there ever was it. And to me, it's good reality television, right? It's refreshing reality television. Another Twitter comment here from Sauce says, going with tradition, I care about the game, competitiveness, the fan community, player growth and development, rivalries. That's another good one. Ups and downs and emotional attachment. I got to tell you, Sauce, you hit a bunch of good ones in one single tweet right there. See, that if I had 20 different options, by the way, for the Twitter poll, I only had 4. I would have put in all of those. Those were great ones. Robert here saying in his reply, my answer differs per sport. For baseball and hockey, it's because I love it. For football, it's because there's betting and it's easy to watch once per week. I think that's a huge aspect of football and the monstrous popularity that it has right now. It is so easily digestible. You have literally days and days of buildup to one game, and fans love buildup. They love that type of tension and drama. Even to me, a lot of times when it's manufactured, when people in the media are digging for stories and inventing stories to make that Sunday's game interesting. But that's what people like. Easily digestible. That's a reason that football is successful. And then basketball, I think what Robert is saying here, only if I have money on the game. So, betting exclusively for Robert with basketball. Last one here from Terry. Great Marie Kondo reference. It sparks joy. Yes. If it didn't spark joy, you'd have to throw it out of your house and put it in the garbage can. No, you would donate it. That's right. Be a good person and donate. All right, so my takeaways from what I learned of all this poll and the results, again, I'll go back to the 33% that said they watch sports because they play. I mean, obviously, sports are relatable in that way, and that really spells out to me the importance of youth sports, specifically the ones that I cover, baseball and hockey. Hockey's not the most popular here in Northern California for kids. It's growing, don't get me wrong. It's going in the right direction. It's trending greatly in the right direction. It's just that Northern California was so far behind for so many years. This is not a traditional hockey market. So we're catching up in that regard, but youth sports, especially for hockey, so important to the future of the game here in Northern California to get bigger and better. And baseball is actually the other way. Baseball was a Goliath of youth sports. And now for whatever reason, whether it's the fact that the sport is difficult, that you fail a lot, that it's a time commitment, I don't know what it is. The fact that kids want to play other sports and baseball is a bit too demanding potentially. You see maybe less participation in youth baseball these days, which is not great. Not great for the sport. They've got to figure that out. To the next one here, 32% said they enjoy because of the storylines. I also want to throw in the fact that nobody really mentioned here, it's just a release from everyday life, right? Life is crazy. Your work, politics, commuting, bad weather, family or friend issues, right? There's always some drama nowadays in 2019. We're all so connected to each other that sometimes you just need to get away, and that Sharks game or that A's game is your best friend. I totally get it. So I think it's a release from everyday life, and that's why people maybe enjoy some of the storylines. And then tradition related, like I said before, it's something that is just passed on. Sports are passed on through generations. That's awesome. I've experienced that in my own family life, from my parents to me to our son already, and does he like sports already? And I'm not going to push him on it. But you imagine that you're around some things enough, and it's inherent that sports does get passed on that way. I would also say, too, that routines are involved around sports. You want to do something this weekend? Go to a baseball game. So tradition related, I think, is a very important aspect. I'm not surprised all three of those were so close. But again, betting, this is supposed to be the next biggest thing in sports. And a lot of companies are investing a lot of money in the future of wagering in sports. And I totally understand it. There's a market out there for it. It is becoming legal in a state-by-state basis. I'm not sure, though, that betting is going to bring anybody new into sports. Do you really feel like somebody's going to start watching sports because they just realize, oh, it's legal now. I can watch and I can bet straight from my phone. I mean, that's probably how they were betting before in a non-legal way. I really think that betting is not going to draw necessarily anyone new to sports, but I think it will enhance revenue in sports, and that might see effects from a fan perspective of maybe you get something more out of the product. Maybe there's just more money flowing through sports because of betting in a legal way now. More people are getting more slices of the pie, and maybe there will be some better fan result because of it. You know, maybe there's no such thing anymore as a publicly funded stadium, or maybe you as a fan get some benefit you'd like to think because your team and your league is doing better as a result of new wagering money. And again, I go back to that football popularity. It's been big really for the last, especially 10, 15 years. I mean, it's always been big, don't get me wrong, but it's been noticeably bigger as the internet has come around, as smartphones have come around, as apps for your fantasy football team have been super easy to change your lineup, check your score. I mean, watch anybody that's into football on a Sunday, and chances are, I don't have my phone here with me, but they're scrolling, they put their phone down and they pick their phone up and look at the score and refresh and see how many points they're winning or losing by and how their running back is doing. I mean, they get so fixated and obsessed, and for I guess good reasons. They like sports. To me, I like some of the other personal aspects of it rather than the statistical side of how well an individual does for my fantasy team. But it's interesting how football popularity, I think, has little to do with geography. Some fans, a lot of fans still have connections to their local team. They have their team, but really who they're pulling for is the guy that might make them money on the football field as a fantasy player. All right, so that does it for my thoughts here on why do you watch sports? What's the main reason? I hope you enjoyed this, and if you're on my YouTube channel, I really appreciate that. If you're listening via podcast, thank you so much. Consider subscribing if you want more content like this in the future. I'm also a big-time Twitter guy, especially during Sharks and A's games, so find me there, as well as on Instagram. That's where I've been working maybe the hardest lately, trying to put out great content on a regular basis. So yeah, follow me and find me on as many platforms as you can. I truly appreciate that. And until next time, I'm Brody Brazil. Yes, that is my real name.